Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic.
Hello, folks. This is Dustin Gold, producer of the Douglas Ducote Show. I just got off an interview with Virginia Senator Amanda Chase, who is running for governor in Virginia as a pro-American, freedom-loving Republican. She just got off a conference call with the White House Task Force Coronavirus Task Force team, led by Vice President Mike Pence, who was the one who led the conference call. You do not want to miss this interview. There is very important information in here directly from the White House. So please stick with us and watch the full interview of Senator Amanda Chase reporting on what she learned directly from the White House Task Force. are listening to the Dustin Gold Standard. This program is produced by Freedom Force TV. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dustin Gold with the Dustin Gold Standard and the Douglas Ducote Show. Today we have a special guest. You may remember her back during the giant Virginia gun battle. It's Virginia State Senator Amanda Chase, who has announced her intentions, and she's actually announced her campaign to run for governor. So let's bring her on and get some updates on the situation in Virginia with the gun legislation, what she's going to be doing with her campaign, and then also talk to her about COVID-19. She was just on a conference call with the White House task force. Welcome to the program, Senator Chase. It is an honor to have you here.
Well, it's an honor to be on your show, and thanks for having me. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, so let's jump right into your campaign first, and let's get that out of the way. So you've announced you are going to run for governor. Tell us a little bit about your platform, why you ran, and just for the audience, if you guys don't remember, Douglas interviewed Senator Chase during the Virginia 2A Rally Day weekend, and she kind of got internet famous based on a post she had put out on Facebook that went all over Twitter, where she was warning people about the possibility of false flags from outside forces, as well as possibly from inside, dirty elements of the government. She made a big splash with that. Doug thanked her very much for putting out her information. So tell us a little bit about your campaign, why you're running for governor, and what your platform is.
Well, first of all, I'm running for governor because I'm fed up. I am tired of politicians destroying our country and our state. And if you look at the clown show that we have seen in that executive office since I can remember, starting with McAuliffe, who issued Executive Order 50, banning guns from all of our state offices. Okay, that was the starters. And then comes Governor Northam, and he's finishing the gun grab. You know, this was a huge attack on our constitutional rights. That's what we saw this past session. Our Second Amendment, our First Amendment. And to your question, you asked, what, as the dust settled, what happened? So we ended up with over 8 pieces of gun restrictive legislation. It's an assault on our Second Amendment. We have red flag laws, which deny law-abiding citizens of due process. It says that one person, meaning a police officer, an attorney, a judge, one person can determine whether someone gets to keep their rights or not. And they lose those rights for 14 days, okay? So you could be innocent. An attorney, a judge, a police officer could, falsely accuse you or have, what they feel is reasonable suspicion, and you can lose your gun rights.
And just to make this clear to the audience, because we've covered a lot of this on the national level, also covered what was going on in Virginia. We did a 6-hour live stream from Virginia, had a couple 100,000 people watch it. But what you're talking about is generally referred to in layman's terms as red flag laws, correct?
Right, that is correct. And we also had one gun a month, which I call it the freedom. We're losing the freedom to shop. And, I like shopping. If I go to a gun show, I don't want to get stuck with buying one gun. I mean, if we had a bill that was put forward that said you can buy one knife a month or you can buy one car a month, I think the liberals probably would have gotten it. It's never the government's role to overreach and overstep. And that's what they've done. And they did that with healthcare too, if you remember. They were forcing law-abiding citizens, Americans, forcing them to purchase something. Now they're saying you can't purchase, and that's just not the American way. They've also allowed localities to create these gun-free zones, which means if I'm carrying, which I'm always carrying, I keep my gun next to my lipstick, and I'm a petite woman, and look, there are a lot of people out there that would do all of us harm. And so I don't care where you go, you should always have that ability as a law-abiding citizen to protect yourself. And if I go to the Chesterfield County Fair, They're now saying that the locality can choose to say that I can't, as a law-abiding citizen, carry my gun and protect myself when I'm going to a fair. Anything that the locality deems necessary. So that's also one. But the key component with all of this is these laws are always targeting the law-abiding citizens. They're not going after the criminals. They're going after the law-abiding citizens. And that's what I have a problem with. Let's implement Project Exile, right? If you are a felon, you're caught with a gun, you get an automatic 5 years. That's what I would re-implement. Let's go after the criminals. And then after they targeted our Second Amendment rights, which was a complete attack on our Second Amendment rights, then they come after our First Amendment right. And you have Delegate Jeffrey Bourne, who puts forward legislation that basically says that you can't go on the internet and harass or say anything that is seen as obscene or profane or any of that. I mean, look at my Facebook page. I'm all for the First Amendment.
Oh, we followed that. That was draconian measures that you couldn't basically go online and criticize a public representative, an elected official, someone who represents the public. Now, did that end up passing? Was that signed into law?
Well, it sure did. It passed the House and the Senate, and it's headed to the governor's desk to sign. And we'll do it.
Yeah,
he'll do it.
Yeah, and just to put this into context for people, I mean, Virginia is a very scary situation because pre-2013, you had Governor Bob McDonnell. He was Republican, got caught up in some corruption scandals in 2013. Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli, who now works for President Trump, ran for governor as Republican. He was pretty famous at the time because he was the first attorney general in the country to file lawsuits against Obamacare. And then the Democrats put up Terry McAuliffe, who's a lifelong Bill and Hillary Clinton bagman, head of the DNC, billionaire hedge fund guy, lent them money when they bought their Chappaqua home. And that's who they ended up installing. And ever since then, you saw Terry McAuliffe was in charge of the state of Virginia when the Charlottesville situation happened, was involved with telling police to stand down. And then we end up in the current situation we have now with Ralph Northam, who made himself famous on the national stage for coming out and effectively endorsing infanticide, murdering a child outside of the womb, and then started with this giant gun battle. My question there in Virginia, do you think, now Virginia is sort of this perfect storm scenario. After the Democrats took the House and Senate, the New York Times wrote an article essentially bragging with Pew Research studies that they used mass immigration over 20 years to overturn the state. You also have a large portion of the state being federal workers that work in Washington, D.C., that tend to vote Democrat. Can you take Virginia back, not just for the Republican Party, but for pro-American freedom-loving citizens? I mean, can it be done? Or, in all honesty, do you think it's too late? Or is this about having to go out and sell the narrative and change the tone in Virginia?
No, I believe it's winnable. Let me tell you the mistake Republican candidates for governor have historically made. They did not embrace President Trump. They didn't. They instead of doubling down on principles that line up with the Republican creed, they gave him, they didn't mention his name. They tried to avoid him. People didn't like that. They want you to be hot or cold, or they're going to spit you out. And I've always said, I'm going to be hot. You know where I stand. I've just won re-election it's my second term in office, and I won by 10 percentage points. And they threw everything in the books at me. My Democrat opponent outraised me hand over fist. Do you know why I win? Because I doubled down. I don't back off. I don't moderate my message. I say, this is who I am. I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm pro American. I'm pro get the government out of your business, out of your home life. It's bipartisan. That message sells to people. And what we do, and we've had a lot of great people that ran for governor, but if you have any connection to Northern Virginia, the rest of Virginia is not buying you. They feel like the tail's wagging the dog, because it is. And so they don't trust you. Listen, I helped Governor McDonnell when he ran the first go around. I helped Ken Cuccinelli when he ran for Attorney General. I have a history politically of winning impossible races. Let's just mention Congressman Dave Brett. Everybody said he'd never win. He won. Everybody said Cuccinelli for Attorney General. He'd never win. We won. I know how to win races because I'm the grassroots mom of Virginia, if you will. And I'm not a politician. I give it to the people straight. They trust me. I planned to run for governor in maybe 4 years. And I said, God's going to have to give me a clear sign before I run. And when I was at that rally as one of the speakers on the 20th at the VCDL rally, and people were shouting, Chase for governor. Listen, I tried to walk away. I tried to pretend I didn't hear them, but there was no denying it. People appreciate that I'm bold leadership. There is no voice other than mine right now. Very few legislators are speaking up. It's one thing to vote for 2A. It's another thing to speak up and defend it. And I got in trouble on the floor of the Senate for calling the Democrats traitors to the United States Constitution and the Virginia Constitution. I got cited Rule 52, and I stood up, and I did get the last word, by the way, because that's what I do. And I said, listen, you're putting those rules, those Senate rules, in greater place than the very Constitution of the United States of America and our Virginia Constitution. And so people know me. I don't back down. I speak my mind. I'm going to lower taxes. I'm going to lower regulation. I'm not afraid to issue executive orders to return our constitutional rights back to us that were taken. And I don't think Virginia is blue. I just think we've had candidates for governor that backed away from gun rights. They backed away from President Trump. And I'm not going to do that. I'm doubling down. And in fact, I told people.
I was going to say, well, I will double down. Oh, sorry.
If you double down, you'll get people that don't normally vote to come and vote for you.
Yeah, well, I remember the days of former U.S. Congressman Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, when he would even battle his own party, the Republican Party. He stood up against the cronyism. He stood up to the fact that the Republicans were weak-kneed, and they ended up gerrymandering his district and forcing him out of Congress in the state of Florida. You know, in the 2013 race, Cuccinelli versus Terry McAuliffe, one of the mistakes I think that Ken Cuccinelli made was the Democrats used two questionable campaign contributions, which were actually not illegal and actually not unethical. And Cuccinelli went in weak-kneed, ended up putting out a video, made it look like he apologized, therefore it made him look guilty, and then he lost the race from that point. And I think you need to stand strong. We all know how these guys play ball. We know the tactics they use. I just want to ask you, because you mentioned the congressman who pushed forward the anti-First Amendment legislation. I always like to put names and faces to these bills, to this legislation. On the Democrat side, for the last 15, 20 years, currently it's Senator Dick Saslaw. Is he one of the big ones behind all the Second Amendment, anti-Second Amendment push?
Yes, and in fact, it's funny you should mention that, because we actually posted on my Senator Amanda Chase page, which is now up to 70,000 followers. We posted up there not only the Democrats that introduced these restrictive laws that are aggressive against the Second Amendment. We put their picture, we put their office contact information, and the bill that they introduced. Senator Dick Saslaw pulled one of his most egregious bills. Delegate Mark Levine in the House continued to carry that bill. But we had people, and I have to credit the people for this, because they were the ones that called the office. They called Delegate Mark Levine's office night and day. I actually had a conversation with Delegate Mark Levine and got him to restrict. He had it was a felony offense if you had a magazine that had 12 rounds in it or more. And I said, look, if you're not going to strike your bill, could you at least make it a class 1 misdemeanor? And he was like, you know, I'll think about it. And I have to give credit to my attorney, Tim Anderson, who was on the call with me, and we worked to negotiate that deal. But ultimately, the best part of all is when we got to that judicial committee, the day that I announced I was running for governor, we were sitting before the Senate Judiciary Committee. I sat right beside Delegate Mark Levine before he presented his bill. And I had the chairman, Senator Edwards, approach me and say, Senator Chase, don't you worry. This bill is going to be passed by for the year. Please call off the dogs. In other words, they are getting so many phone calls that they've heard from the people and they didn't like that bill.
Well, let me ask you this. I know what you're referencing. I don't have the bills in front of me, but there was on one Monday you had the NRA organize their lobby day. The next week you had the Citizens Defense League and all the patriots from around America came in. That was the one that was on TV and everything. Between that 1 week period, that was when Dick Saslaw pulled his bill. But I had read there was, and I don't know if this is what you're referring to, but I just want to clarify this. There was basically a carbon copy bill floating in the wings. Is that the Mark Levine bill that you're referencing?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes,
that did
that
pass,
was
but
the-
you got it lowered from felony to misdemeanor.
Actually, it didn't pass. It actually got passed by for the year, which means they didn't act on it this
Oh,
year.
so they
It's gonna come
tabled it,
back.
yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay, great. Well, that's good news. I mean, after Virginia, we were still following it, and like you said, there was 8 pieces of legislation. They're flying all over the place. So now, obviously, I know you support, the Citizens Defense League, Gun Owners of America, that have been doing a lot of work there. Do you know if there is anyone filing any sort of legislation on unconstitutionality on any of these pieces of legislation? Do you know if that's going on?
So what's going to happen next? First of all, the bills go into effect July 1. And once they go into effect, then we begin the process of filing injunctions in the localities where we believe where we'll get a favorable ruling. And that's how you challenge the law. It's going to take a lot of money, which I know people are contributing to VCDL. But that's what's going to happen. Now we have to challenge the courts.
Okay, great. And
Until I become governor and issue an executive order.
Yes, we'll see. That's what I want people to understand. It's organizations like Virginia Citizens Defense League, like the Gun Owners of America, I know some people sometimes get upset with the NRA, but these are the guys that are going to file the lawsuits, file the injunctions. Hopefully we will even see some of this at some point come out of Attorney General Bill Barr, President Trump's head of the DOJ. Now, let me ask you, it's the hottest topic going. Obviously, a lot of people feel like they're locked down in their homes right now. You just got off a conference call with the White House COVID-19 task force. We've been interviewing a lot of experts. We've been out on the streets talking to doctors, nurses, managers of grocery store chains. We brought on biologists last night. A lot of doctors and nurses won't go on the record to talk about this. And what we're finding is it's because the virus itself, the disease itself is so new. Even these doctors that are reading a lot of the medical journals are not comfortable going on the record. Yet there's a lot of liability issues. If they say something, it turns out not to be true, and people take that as advice, they don't want to get sued. So we had a biologist on last night. Tomorrow we're talking to some experts for Center for Immigration Studies about what's going on at the border. We have a former DHS emergency management planner. What did you learn on this conference call that maybe is some things that we haven't heard on the national level yet?
So first of all, the overall feeling is I felt very encouraged after I got off that phone call. Vice President Mike Pence led the call, and he just reassured everybody that, look, the federal government is taking this seriously. We understand the health implications. We understand the economic concerns, the economic destruction of this virus and people not being able to work that don't have benefits, waitresses, waiters, hairdressers, those types of things. They're acutely aware of that. And they're working on, they passed there's an $8.3 billion package that's been passed. They declared us a national disaster. Every state has declared a state of emergency at this point. They're putting the full power of the federal government behind this epidemic. Looking at an economic stimulus bill, which I believe the Senate was going to vote on earlier today, and I'm looking over my notes. They have activated FEMA in all 50 states. And but what I was most impressed about is that they've got all the leading health experts addressing this issue. And they're still saying this, I'm gonna tell you the new stuff, it's what they're saying is, because there are a lot of different theories out there. Why is it we're taking this so seriously when there's other flus that are out there that maybe have provided more deaths and there are vaccines for those? But the challenging part to this virus is how contagious it is. It's 3 to 4 times more contagious than any of the other flus that we've seen. And that the young people, it can be in a community of young people for weeks and it not affect anybody until you have someone that has an immune compromised system or someone that is older. And then once that person gets it, then, you have a community there and you start seeing more cases of it. But the voluntary recommendation from the Trump administration is that we avoid groups of 10 or less. And if you look at what Governor Northam did, he's now saying it's going to be a class 1 misdemeanor. And they're bringing in law enforcement to back this up. See, that's the difference between the Trump administration, who's voluntary, and the draconian socialists that have taken over this Democratic Party. And instead of allowing people through self-preservation and educating themselves, they're creating these mandates, these draconian mandates, turning law-abiding citizens into criminals if you don't do what they say. I mean,
I think Governor Northam said that if they catch you outside walking around, they'll take your guns and then abort you. I think that's right in line with his policies. No, so I and that's what I was going to ask you, and I'm glad you touched on this, because so you're saying the White House task force, back with information from CDC, from WHO, from FEMA, from all these different organizations, is saying that this particular COVID-19 is 3 to 4 times more contagious than what we would call the common flu. That's what they told you?
Right, correct. And it's going to be another year before they get any type of vaccine for it. And the challenging part that is, if you're a senior and you get it, it is just devastating. And a lot of times ends up in a fatality.
And for the last week, the last week, we've been reporting and tracking on it. And like we say to our audience, the information that we assume the president looks at is what we use as our baseline. So we use CDC numbers, WHO numbers, and then also Johns Hopkins, which has the tracking maps, which gets their information from WHO and from CDC. So as we tell our audience, look, we are skeptical of government as much as probably Senator Chase is. These are the numbers that probably the president is working with. Therefore, we use those as our baseline, and you can skew those numbers based on your trust level with the government. But as of Tuesday last week, there was 808 reported cases. Last night in our show, there was 6,400. So what we're looking at is the doubling rate. So that's when it goes from 50 to 100. How many days did it take to get there? And as of last week, the numbers we're tracking internally, we were at about a 2.5 day doubling rate. That means every 2.5 days, the amount of reported infected, we don't know everyone who's infected that doesn't report, is doubling. So that is spreading faster than even projections from some doctors 3 or 4 weeks ago, who said their concern wasn't necessarily the virus, but the overwhelming of our emergency care system. And they were looking at it from Italy's numbers based on a 6-day doubling rate. So we only have roughly 1 million hospital beds in the United States, 65% of which are used on any given day. Therefore, if you get up into the number of 1, 2, 3 million people infected, and we have 10%, which is Italy's numbers, going to the hospital, we're now out of hospital beds, and people who need to go to the hospital for other reasons now aren't going to be able to get into the hospital. That seemed to be one of the big concerns from some medical experts in the very beginning of this thing, was the overwhelming of the healthcare system.
Yeah, so one of the things that I learned on this phone call is that in the next 2 or 3 days, they're going to be clearing out some of their backlog. So they said, don't be surprised that you see the numbers go up, because they've got a backlog. And so those are going to be, you're going to start seeing those numbers as well.
I will say what I just realized a little while right before we got on. So the Johns Hopkins map is what we use because they're pulling their data from CDC and WHO, is actually down right now. It says no data available. I've seen this happen twice in the last week. It's usually when they're updating the databases. So I can't even pull it up on screen and show the current numbers. So.
The other thing I would tell you is that they're going to have some new tests, some self-tests that you can do yourself There's a new thermofacial platform that's going to be available soon. They're going to have a no self-testing kit that you can do yourself versus the nasal swab. And that's going to start coming forward. They're also talking about implementing telehealth services so that we're protecting our frontline men and women who are serving and taking care of our community and doing the testing. They're postponing. The recommendation is that they postpone all elective surgeries to preserve protective equipment. They're talking about the shortages that we've been hearing about protective gear for our front line of defense for our healthcare workers.
So what you're saying, you said elected surgery. So just a public service announcement to Nancy Pelosi: no more plastic surgery. So you won't be able to do that during this time.
Of course. One other thing that I want to add in there is that they mentioned that there were text messages that were not true. They were hoax about going on lockdown. That is not true. They said go to coronavirus.gov. That's where it's the best website if you're tracking the coronavirus. Do not believe these hoax texts that are going out to put people in fear that somehow we're.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because last night Douglas, 18-year medically retired, 4-tour combat veteran, went through how the National Guard works, what they're actually doing. He said, look, if the country goes into martial law, I got so many friends inside of military, inside of law enforcement, I'd be the first guy to report it to you, but went through step by step what's actually occurring now. And then tomorrow night, we're going to have an expert professor who was with DHS Emergency Management who's going to walk through all this tomorrow. One of the things we're looking at is not necessarily, martial law in the sense that people talk about, but the CDC under Barack Obama there was legislation that was passed that allows the CDC to force quarantine people that they believe may be infected. In the courts, it hasn't played out yet. They've done it to someone back during the Ebola scare. She was a health worker who was overseas, came back. They forced quarantined her. She actually fought that. The courts ruled in her favor, but it hasn't been. It hasn't gone through the courts as far as groups, like quarantining an entire town or an entire county yet. They said that now it's going to be tricky because a lot of states and mayors are actually the ones implementing this. So as far as you know, the Trump administration, the task force is saying they're going to let the states and the mayors manage it the way they want to manage it as far as lockdown and quarantines go. Now, President Trump has said openly he may be doing some quarantines on some of the hot areas. I mean, he said that himself.
Right. And I think in severe circumstances, I think that people prefer self-preservation, voluntary restrictions, recommendations, and following those orders. But it is a serious threat to our health right now that we need to be taken seriously. And I've got friends on both sides of the aisle, and I'm always afraid to push. I'm always trying to decide, okay, this is what I think about the situation. I just post it out there anyway and let the chips fall where they are, because that's just what I do.
You got in any of this stuff, whether you're in the media side of this or whether you're in elected office, I think you need to be true to yourself, true to what you believe, and true to the people that support you, whether you be a politician like yourself or whether you be media. And don't be afraid to tell people what you think they need to hear, not necessarily what they want to hear. Otherwise, we aren't really the outsiders. We are, the mainstream media, and you don't want to do that. We don't want to get in the business of telling people what they want to hear. Sometimes we're bringing you stuff and we risk losing the audience and subscribers because we're trying to be honest with you.
And I do believe in this 10-person limit. I do believe that. I do feel like we need to contain this virus and be respectful, self-sacrificial, and take some downtime. I mean, when do Virginians sit still? I mean, I know I've been doing this for 12 years, and I'm actually enjoying being at home for once. Spend some time with your family.
Let me just ask you your opinion on this, because it's one of our biggest fears here. I don't really fear myself personally, the virus. What I do fear is if the current state, and it's getting worse every day as far as, states and localities shutting down. is the long-term
Right.
effects on small business. That's really, I mean, mom and pops, and there's very few of those left over the years as the big box stores came in and put a lot of mom and pops out of business. And then Amazon came in and started actually hammering away at the big box stores. What do you think? And I know the Trump administration yesterday and today is dealing with this, small business loans, I mean, kind of checks going out to people. But if this goes on for 4, 8, 12 weeks, small businesses I don't think they can sustain it. I mean, what do you think is going to happen long term with this? And did they mention how long they thought this current state would last?
Well, I think they're monitoring the virus very closely. I know the president has said that he thinks this will last through August at least. I've also heard that the virus, it can be killed at temperatures above 75 degrees. So we'll have to see what happens with the weather and see if that has any effect or influence on it. But I do know from the Trump administration.
So what you're saying is bring on the climate change. Let's heat up this planet.
I don't know about all that. But I do know that the Trump administration expressed today their commitment to small business and to help them through being able to get loans and to give them a helping hand to get through this situation. They're really looking to help everybody, and this is traumatic what's gone on with our country. I mean,
look, within the last week, I will
Nobody-
tell you, at first, even a week ago, people were like, yeah, whatever, it's a hoax, it's not real, it was this, it was that. And we started having our fans send in videos of them in the grocery store, because what we wanted our audience to see was not to panic, but it's not a hoax that the grocery store shelves were going empty. And if you're not prepared to hunker down for a little while, you're not doing a service to your family. And so what we were telling people is we're not supporting panic buying, but we are saying, I mean, even around here, I went out and shot videos. I'm not so concerned about toilet paper, but the meats were gone at Kroger. Kroger managers were telling us the warehouses were running short. So we were trying to tell people and to get out there and prepare. Now, it took a week, and now everyone has someone affected, not infected with the virus, but even my wife, a lot of her business is taking a hit right now. She's got a service-based business. People are canceling. So everyone's going to start to see the effects of this. And again, that's just my concern is mom and pop businesses, small businesses taking a hit. I mean, if you've got to close your little town center diner, I don't know how long that can actually last. And then our other big fear is in densely populated areas, inner city areas. As soon as some of these corner stores close and things like that, our big fear is when you start to see looting going on. And in these Democrat-controlled states and cities, they're starting to dump people out of the jails. Philadelphia announced they're not going to prosecute property crimes. So I will just say, these communist mayor scumbags are literally pouring gasoline on the fire and actually trying to ignite riots. I have no doubt in my mind these guys are trying to make that happen.
Yeah, at the same time, they want to restrict our Second Amendment, right?
Restrict us, yeah.
That's right.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
you look at it. There has been some mayors who've done lockdowns and buying ammunition, buying guns while this is going on. Then at the same time, dumping people out of the jail onto the streets and saying they're not going to prosecute property crimes. Well, you just told criminals to go out and rob people and break into stores. I mean, that's what you just told people to do. There's no way around it. That these people are in charge. They're not incompetent. They're not stupid. This is intentional, and they try to do this stuff all the time, and it's sick and disgusting.
I agree. And it reminds me of most of the laws that we passed in Virginia this past year, where we're giving more rights to criminals and illegals, and we're going after the law-abiding citizens. That's summing it up. That's this past session in 2020.
Yep, you're exactly right. So anything else you want to say to the audience before we take off? And then also just give people the information. Obviously, you can go to chaseforsenate.com, but you're also launching your new site for governor,
Chase for
and then your
Governor. Yeah.
Facebook page is very active as well, right?
Absolutely. The best place to find me is on Facebook. It's Senator Amanda Chase. I do videos almost every day. In fact, I did one right after the conference call with the White House today with Vice President Mike Pence. I give updates so people know, what's really happening in Richmond and what's happening in our world, and I appreciate what you're doing. But listen, don't be discouraged. Don't despair. We're Americans, and here we're Virginians, and we're resilient. And I am so happy to lead the charge to return Virginia and make Virginia great again. We're going to do it. I'm a winner, and people know that. And I'm going to take this state back. I'm going to lead that effort, starting with the Second Amendment. I'm going to win the governor's seat by doubling down instead of moderating my message. And instead of looking more like a Democrat, I'm going to double down, and people know that I mean business. And I don't back down. I'm going to win, and I'm going to return normalcy back to the great state of Virginia.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Senator Chase. God bless you, and good luck. We'll have you back on. Hopefully, this coronavirus stuff. Not that it's going to end, but I think within another week or two, maybe the kind of the shock will wear off, and then we can get back to talking about more things going on in the state of Virginia, and let's get into depth on your race there. Thank you very much. God bless you, and have a great day.
You're listening to the Dustin Gold Standard on Freedom Force TV.
Hello, everyone. This is Dustin Gold, producer with the Douglas Ducote Show. I'm reporting on another coronavirus update. As you know, over the last couple of days, we've been showing videos from Walmart, from Kroger, from Publix. Doug did some down in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I've done some in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Dan Golvach, he's an angel father, friend of the family, shot some video of the ammo running out at the Academy Sports in Houston, Texas. I went back to the Kroger today, experienced the same thing I did a couple days ago. All the meats were essentially wiped out, probably 99% of the meats. Spaghetti sauces are gone, you'll see in the video. Bread is gone. But what I want to report to you is that I spoke to a different manager who I know from the last manager I spoke to, who confirmed to me that as far as Kroger is concerned, nationwide in their warehouses, they are out of hand sanitizer, Lysol cleaning products, laundry detergents, and they aren't going to get those back in for the foreseeable future. That's what their suppliers are telling them. They told me what happens now is that the Krogers across the country that were open 24 hours a day are now going to close at 10 p.m. and open at 6 a.m. I saw the signs. They've been doing this for the last couple of days. They told me that the shipments come in between 10 and 12 p.m. They're stocking overnight, and then they said at 6 a.m. when they open, yesterday, there was hundreds of people lined up at 4 a.m. like Black Friday. They rush into the store from 6 to 7 a.m. and they buy everything out, which is why I've not seen a lot of panic shopping live in the stores, because I've been going in late morning, early afternoon, late afternoon. So I haven't seen that, and it was really concerning me. So she said, no, they're rushing in and buying everything out early in the morning. She said right now toilet paper, as far as they know, is running low in the warehouses. And they said meat products, canned foods, they aren't getting full shipments. So in the morning, it's not even fully stocked. So what we'd recommend here at the Douglas Ducote Show, as Doug mentioned in an earlier video, this isn't about panic, but we are saying, because we cannot predict what's going to happen in the coming weeks. President Trump today said this could last into July, into August, maybe longer. There's leaked documents that come out of the United Kingdom from their version of the CDC that are saying this is going to last into the middle of 2021. No one really knows. It doesn't seem like everyone is on the same page. We even get mixed signals out of the White House, from the task force to the CDC to the president himself. So what we'd recommend is that if you have some disposable income, that you do get some supplies, get some meats, get some vegetables, things that you can freeze. If you don't use them, you can use them later. But sitting around right now while the hoarders are going out and buying everything, it's probably the best thing for you and your family to get something. Have a couple of weeks of stuff on hand. We know that ammunition is running out. One of our contributors, a friend of the show, Dan Golvach, he's an angel father. He showed us what Academy Sports looked like at Houston, Texas. Ammo's running out. You guys reported back to us on YouTube that you're seeing ammo running out as well. And I've been talking to a lot of fans of the show, people who are guests of the show, connected to our show, that are telling us they're experiencing the same thing around the country. So just be prepared, be proactive, do what you need to do to protect your family and yourself. God bless you all. And now take a look at what this Kroger looks like.
Hey guys, it's Dustin Gold, producer at the Douglas Ducote Show. So I'm back at my Kroger here in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Just want to show you guys. The other day it was completely empty. So I'm going to talk to my friend who's the manager in a minute. But right now, you see those are still empty. And then you come down here. I don't need to show the whole thing here, but you'll see. It's all completely empty. The meat. All empty. And then this, you see actually here, all empty. All empty. And then you'll see, just so you can see the bread aisle behind me, all empty. All empty. This one, the bread over there is all empty. You'll see over here, it's all empty. Now let me bring you down like where like bacon and things like that would be. Empty. I'm starting to see some people wearing N95 masks now. And this is the big Kroger in Hendersonville, Tennessee. It's where I basically go pretty much every day. Sorry about that, my battery's dying. You'll see. So I think when I was here a couple days ago, here you'll actually see in here too, it's all empty in here. And then when I was here the other day, a lot of it, we'll see here, we'll see it actually walk down here. This is where spaghetti sauce, that kind of stuff, look, empty. This is again a big Kroger. So anyway, what I want to say here too is if you guys want to shoot any videos and send them to us, we would be very appreciative, and we will actually air those. So send that to breaking, BREAKING, breaking at DouglasDucote.com. You can use WeTransfer.com. That's WeTransfer.com. WeTransfer.com. And you can send those videos free to us. Send them to breaking at DouglasDucote.com, and we will air them. Show us your stores, show us any places selling ammo, and we will air that for you. All right, have a great day.
Hello, folks. This is Dustin Gold, producer with the Douglas Ducote Show. As we said, if you submit your videos to the Douglas Ducote Show by using the email breaking at DouglasDucote.com. You can use WeTransfer.com to submit videos to us free at breaking at DouglasDucote.com. We will show those. This is a video submitted by Brett and Shan in East Nashville, Tennessee at the Kroger. You're not going to believe this. everyone, this is Dustin Gold. I'm actually live right now at the moment. We just showed you a collection of some interviews and things we've been doing. Yeah, so if you want to send us any videos, and we're not just looking for empty store videos, we were doing that last week to show people that it was not a hoax. I mean, nobody knows what the virus is, but it wasn't a hoax that store shelves were going empty, and we just wanted people to know so they could actually prepare. President Trump is the one saying it could last till August. We know now the White House is looking at the possibility of an 18-month plan. Up in Connecticut, where my father lives, where I grew up, it's commie land. One of his neighbors in the retirement community he lives in was just crying this morning. She's 65 years old. The police came in and force shut down her hair salon because they're closing non-essential businesses in Connecticut. So if you guys know anyone in the medical profession, doctors, nurses, staffers in hospitals, we've talked to a lot. They're afraid to go on the record, especially doctors, because the information that they're looking at coming from the CDC and WHO, and doctors that are into reading medical journals are all telling us it's too early to actually say what's going on. A lot of them don't want to go on the record because if you heed their advice and the next thing you know, they were wrong, there's liability issues. So we're getting information from these kind of people. We brought a biologist on the other night, Timothy Shea. I recommend you watch that interview with Doug. He talks about the virus and what he believes it is. But yeah, if you have anyone in your family who wants to talk to us, reach out to us at breaking@douglasducote.com or call in the show when we're doing live calls or shoot an interview with them and send it to us. So we're looking for healthcare professionals. We're looking for stories from small business owners that are being affected by this, especially in states that are doing lockdowns and closing non-essential businesses. We want to talk to truck drivers, the experiences they're having. We're hearing now they're closing rest stops all over the highway and putting out porta potties for these guys, which is disgusting because the porta potties are a lot less sanitary than bathrooms. So we want stories from real people. Either we interview them or you do it and send it to us. You can go to WeTransfer.com. It's free, WeTransfer.com, and then send it to breaking@douglasducote.com and send us these stories. This is how we get around the mainstream media. This is true citizen journalism. This is true. This is the true way that you, the American people, can report your stories to each other through Douglas's fan base. We'll be putting out emails on our list soon. There's over 30,000 of you on there now. So we want to bring the information direct to the people from the people. That's part of what we talked about the last week in-house here. We want you to report to the other people. We need to know there's others out there like us that are experiencing this, others like us out there that are going to get through this. And this is how you saw the video from Brett and Shan. They're in East Nashville. There's a lot of bluegrass music there. They put it to bluegrass, add a little levity to the situation. So please send us any videos you have. Send us any guests that you think would be interesting. We want to talk to small business owners. We want to talk to medical professionals. We want to go around the mainstream media and the government and bring you guys information directly from you. We need to hear American stories. We have to hold together. Who knows how long this is going to go? Who knows what other policies are going to be put into place? These are trying times for sure, but we've got to stick together and we've got to go around mainstream media. So please use WeTransfer.com for free and send your videos to breaking@douglasducote.com or email us directly at breaking@douglasducote.com with any information about guests that you want to see on, people that you know who want to come on and tell their stories. We will be back. Doug's going to put out a video in a little bit on an update on the FBI legal battle with the stalkers and the death threats, because I know you guys are into that. Just because there's the COVID-19, other news doesn't stop. And then tonight we'll be doing a show live, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's a regular time we go live, and we will have on Professor Nick Giordano, friend of the show. He's on Tucker Carlson a lot. He was a former DHS emergency management out of New York City. He's going to be talking about the government's response, what he thinks they're doing right, what he would do differently, suggestions he may have. He's also going to answer your questions on martial law and on some of that stuff. And then we'll have Jessica Vaughn from Center for Immigration Studies, who will be talking about what's going on at the southern border during all of this. Are we secured? Are we not secured? If things changed, if policies change? So we're going to have a full pack show tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern time, and then we will also take your calls live. We will email that out tonight just in case YouTube does not send out a notification. We've been having some problems with YouTube today. We're running fine on DLive, Facebook, Periscope, but YouTube has been cutting in and out on this stream and the last stream. So please stay tuned. 4 p.m. for Doug's video, and then 9 p.m. tonight. Probably the rest of this probably for the next week. I mean, we're going to do a lot more coverage, do as much as we possibly can, as long as we have internet connections, as long as our platforms are up, and then we'll be doing more streaming directly to Doug's site as well. So thank you all for joining us. God bless you. Hang in there. Protect your family. That's number one. And have faith and pray if that's something that you do. And stick together. Help your neighbors. Start to organize with your neighbors right now. Become friends with them. You want them to be your allies and not your enemies. God forbid, something even worse comes down. So God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.
I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic.